All right, how are we feeling about any of this? Did you play with any of it this week? Experiment, think about it.
I did the 20-minute meditation one time. I probably would have done it more had it come like Thursday morning, because I was just in that frame of mind. But I did it once, and it was, I was comfortable. I liked it.
Good.
I do yoga nidra for sleep frequently.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I usually meditate more, like maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes every other day, but for some reason this week it didn't happen. So.
That's okay. We are in a busy season. All right, let's start today with a quote. This is from a woman named Cynthia Bourgeault. Anybody ever heard of Cynthia Bourgeault? She's a contemporary. She's written multiple books. It says, virtually every spiritual tradition that holds a vision of human transformation at its heart also claims that a practice of intentional silence is non-negotiable, period. You just have to do it. Whether it be the meditation of yoga and the Buddhist traditions, the zikr of Sufis, the devkut of mystical Judaism, or the contemplative prayer of the Christians, there is a universal affirmation that this form of spiritual practice is essential to spiritual awakening. It's pretty impressive. So I want to start tonight with, and I recognize that you can't probably read all of this that's on the board, which is fine. But we want to start with levels of awareness. So if you think about what you're aware of, and this overlaps with some of the diagrams we did last week, and if you go back and look at notes together, you can probably see places that they overlap. But intentional silence doesn't come naturally to us. Honestly, you can be a brilliant physicist or you can be a devoted monk, but unless you've had some kind of spiritual training, this doesn't come naturally. And you will find the formation of yourself happening in this ordinary awareness. So we have ordinary awareness, we have spiritual awareness, and we have divine awareness. Okay, so it's this coming inward farther and farther. So ordinary awareness is the way we ordinarily think, the way we ordinarily function in the world, and that sense of self that comes with that type of thinking. Right? It's our personality, our gifts, our attributes, and there's this sense in this place of ordinary awareness that if these gifts and personality and attributes aren't fully expressed, then our being is not going to be whole. Okay, so there's a sense of that. And it creates a whole lot of expectations and a whole lot of anxiety. If you think about, you ever tried driving down the road and come up with something that you're going to look for? And every time you see it, your awareness is going to be on that thing, right? Say it's a red car. Every time you see a red car, you're going to notice. You should try it sometime, maybe even going home, and recognize how quickly your mind goes off to something else. It's like, oh, that red car triggered a memory, so now my mind is going somewhere else without even realizing it. Okay? This is egoic thinking. So it's centered around I. We are, as far as I know, the only species that can actually step outside of ourselves and look at ourselves in the third person. And that's good in the sense that it helps us to see things, helps us to see ourselves, but it also creates this sense of subject and object. All right, so whatever it is I'm looking at, I'm the subject, and that other thing or that other person is the object. All right, so there's a separateness, there's a separation. There is a loneliness that happens in this ordinary thinking world, ordinary awareness. A lot of people call it the false self or the little I, or lots of ways of looking at it from different traditions. It is the way we perceive things. It's the filter of our ordinary awareness, the way we see the world around us. Spiritual awareness, so this is kind of where we live. This is our normal. We don't actually go to spiritual awareness very often at all. It might happen when you ever been moved to tears by something? It's that kind of a feeling. It's awareness is, it's a little more visceral than just thinking awareness. It's this gut sense of I'm part of something bigger, or maybe seeing something that is so beautiful it moves you to tears, that kind of thing. It's a sense of awe. It is also a way of perceiving. All right, so this is a way of perceiving that comes out of this need to be the I, to express all of me. The spiritual awareness is also a way of perceiving, but it is tied to an intuitive sense of the world being good, intuitive sense of harmony, of wholeness. Okay? It creates a sense of identity that is connected to the sense of the whole, that creates a sense of belonging. If you've heard Janetta talk about sense of being in any of the other trainings, that's where this happens. This sense of knowing that I have a place in the world, that it's a good thing I'm alive, that I'm loved, that I belong, all of that. That's root chakra, chakra 2 as well, the sense of my feelings are valid, that sense of that. It happens in the realm of spiritual awareness. It doesn't happen out here. What happens out here is, am I safe? What did she mean by that? Is it okay? Am I okay? How do I, it's that subject-object thing. And this is spiritual awareness is more a sense of security, a sense of harmony, that there's something. But we don't dip into this very often because this awareness, this ordinary awareness, doesn't like this. It fights against it. And then the final kind is this divine awareness, which is not at our immediate command. It's that sense, if you look at the list we were looking at last week, the samadhi, the 8th limb of yoga, that sense of oneness that occurs, and then also that the final Russian doll, where's that sense of that spark of who you are in context with your source. this is the source. Whatever you want to name it. It's the source of, and again, it's a gift. To get to that point is a gift. It is not in our immediate command. I can't just say, I'm going to go be one with God. It doesn't happen quite like that, does it? But it is genuinely a lovely gift when it does happen. Let's see if I've forgotten anything. So in the Christian scriptures, does anybody know the story of Mary and Martha in the scriptures? Okay, so there's a story it's the Christian tradition. There's a story where Jesus is traveling around, and he's decided with his group of followers, his disciples, they are going to visit some really good friends of his, Mary and Martha and Lazarus. Okay, so he goes into their house, and Martha is busy. She's making the food, she's cleaning up, she's making sure the table is set, all the things. She's got the wine going, she's got the bread ready, and so she's busy. And her sister, Mary, is not helping. She is sitting at the feet of Jesus in the room with the disciples, right? So she is including herself in this place of drawing from her source, okay? So it's just a really good picture of putting a face to what does ordinary awareness look like? It looks like Martha. She's busy, she's hurried, she's frantic. She's not above a little bit of manipulation. She goes to Jesus and she says, "Can you see she's not helping me? Can you tell her to get up and help me?" You know? So this is the busy. This is the ordinary. I'm worried about what I need to do, how to make it work, and why she's not helping, and what you think of me because I'm doing this. This is a really important thing. While Mary is sitting in this place of belonging, of unity at the feet of what she would consider her source, and interacting with the face of, in Jesus, the divine, in her sense of what's happening, okay? And she's not worried about food. She doesn't really care about food because the food she's eating is something deeper. It's an inner nourishment, okay? So that's what it kind of looks like if you want to put a face to it. The external awareness is that busy, anxious, fearful, self-conscious, little I, the false self, that without some kind of training, that's where we live. And that's where our sense of identity develops. Okay. Spiritual awareness, some people call it the true self, some people call it the essential self, some people call it the real I. It's that sense of being, that we know what our place is in the world. It's a sense of inner wisdom. It's a place of listening to something beyond the world out around us. Maybe even a sense of yearning, this longing for something more. There's a longing in us that draws us towards this. And then the divine awareness, like I said, it's not at our command, it's a gift, and it's this mysterious interweaving inside of us that there's this, it's almost unexplainable. Coming from a Christian tradition, I personally don't feel like I'm divine. but there is an indwelling. There is a sense that there's this connectedness within to the source of our being. So if we live in this ordinary awareness all the time, we're missing out on a huge portion of life. Makes sense? There's more that we're missing out on. Again, from the Christian scripture, there's a verse that says, "Whoever wants to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for me will find it." Has anybody heard that before? It's a very common, well-known Christian scripture. And I think, having come from a Christian world that I feel like has misinterpreted that for many, many years, whoever loses this life for my sake, for this, will find it. Okay? If your goal is to preserve this at all costs, you're going to lose this. You're going to lose that sense of connection, of abundance that comes when we find that connection. This is from Buddha. Meditation brings wisdom. Lack of meditation leaves ignorance. Know well what leads you forward and what holds you back, and choose the path that leads to wisdom. So if we stay in this circle, it's going to hold us back. And know what moves you forward into this one. And we're about to say, intentional silence is what makes us get from here to here. It's what moves us into that realm. So if you think about it, in Buddhist mindfulness tradition of meditation, the words they use for this is monkey mind. The monkey mind, that's this beast that's swinging from branch to branch, and it won't stay anywhere for any time, any length of time. Okay, so it's actually a good thing that we have this ordinary awareness, because otherwise we might lose it when this mind starts doing this, right? So there is importance. We got to have both to function in the world. We have to have ordinary awareness to function, because somebody has to cook and somebody has to do the dishes, right? But if that's all there is, then we're sorely missing in this realm. So it's like if you think about a bicycle wheel, you know, and how the spokes are turning as the bicycle is riding, and all of the spokes going round and round and round, being like the monkey mind. Intentional silence is like taking a stick and shoving it into the spokes of the bicycle tire. It's like bringing it to an abrupt halt. And your ordinary awareness is going to resist. It does not like it. It's like when you start sitting in meditation, your ordinary awareness goes, "What? You mean I'm supposed to just sit here and do nothing? I'm supposed to not think? What is with this?" And of course, it's like this internal battle that happens. And it might feel like it is a vacuum. It might feel like you're sitting in a vacuum, but it's not truly a vacuum. It's a little bit like learning how to see in the dark. You know, if you're still long enough, your eyes will adjust and you can begin to see shapes and shadows and all of those things. That's what happens when we begin to work in this realm. So the theory is that if you just break the tyranny of the ordinary mind, if you can just figure out how to stick a spoke in it, that the rest will follow. It will naturally follow. Takes a little bit of time. And at first, as you begin this practice of meditation, at first it feels like it's a place you're going to. It feels like it's a sanctuary. I'm going to this place. As you practice it more and more, it becomes a place you come from. Yeah. So that's the goal. That's the transition. That's the spiritual transformation. It's to integrate these two because we need both of them to function in the world. But to integrate them and reorder them, reprioritize them so that our outer ordinary awareness is in service to our spiritual awareness. And we function differently rather than functioning out of fear and out of, do I have a place? We function from this sense of belonging, from this space of abundance. Okay, let's see. All of us have a Mary inside. All of us have a Mary. We all have this part of us that wants to sit at the feet of the divine, that knows intuitively how to listen for that deeper voice. It just gets drowned out by the Martha in us. Yeah. So we have to learn, how do I deal with this? How do I manage this monkey mind so that I'm at least giving this a chance to emerge, to become more of an awareness, more of an integral part of how I respond to everyday life. Does that make sense? Yes, good. Questions? Thoughts?
I have just one personal experience. I like to dip into the spiritual awareness sometimes during very ordinary experiences, and that helps me. Like, it's going to sound really weird, but I do this driving sometimes because I have to drive a lot. It's very stressful. It's very anxiety producing, and I'm able to tap into that. I think the harmony, I'm just looking at the words and the harmony, and that I tap into that, and I'm not saying I can do that all the time.
Yeah.
Or for very long, but when I do that, it feels really good, and it helps me.
Yeah. One of the things that I was planning to talk about today, and I wasn't sure I was going to have time, so now that we do have a little bit of time, is what do you do if you're, one book that I've been studying, she calls it, if you're a householder, meaning you've got a 40-hour-a-week job, you've got a family at home, and maybe, especially if you have little ones, sitting for 20 minutes is not necessarily a practical part of your day. So what do you do? And that's the answer to the question.
I used to also meditate when my daughter would be going to sleep because it was hard for her to go to bed. And when I would sit there and meditate next to her bed, she would feel calm
Yeah.
and safe. And so I got two things done at the same time. And that's part of the ordinary world, but
Right.
it worked.
But it's in service. Yes, you see the connection there. So yeah, anything like that. Washing dishes. There's a fairly well-known, again, in the Christian tradition, since that's where I come from, a guy by the name of Brother Lawrence, who wrote a book called Practicing the Presence of God. And that's what he did. It's like every single thing he did during the day was in service to, or in appreciation to, or in worship to. So it didn't have to be a particularly spiritual activity, but everything was done from that perspective. And there's also a lot of short 1-minute type meditations that you can take, where you just take 1 minute and you watch your breath. You know, it's things that you can begin to integrate into your ordinary day, that even though you might not have time to sit for 20 minutes right now, you can still take 1 minute, 2 minutes, and focus in that quiet space. All right, I want us to experiment a little bit with some meditation postures. I'm going to tell you, this is an old list that I have kept for a very long time. You want a comfortable position. A lot of people sit cross-legged on the floor, as this is not part of our everyday life. This is not part of our ordinary lives. It is not always an easy thing to do. A lot of people sit in that lotus position, which means not only are you cross-legged, but one leg is higher than the other. So it's intense external rotation in the hips. And not all of us have the ability to do that. So there are lots of options. I brought the two I have, and we have the stool. So I just want us to experiment. We're going to get up out of our chair. So you can sit in your chair. Okay, let's pause there. Let's pause at that moment. So I really do. I want you to get up out of your chair if you want to try the different kinds of cushions, and you mind if people experiment with yours. And then there's one other one that I tend to like if I'm going to be sitting for any length on the floor, which I don't always do. In fact, I'm usually in a chair when I'm at home, but it imitates that one with the stool. And you've probably seen me do it in a yoga class. So your heels are outside the blocks and you're sitting on the stack of blocks and your knees are on the floor. So one of the things that they say is that your hips should be higher than your knees. Okay? Hips higher than knees. So explore. So just go around and try all of them. And think, and in terms of, think about, could I sit here for 10 minutes?
Oh, this is nice. It has the buckwheat hulls.
It has buckwheat hulls in it. And so because it's shaped the way it is, you can sit back farther and let your legs drop down further.
I used to be able to put my foot up here. This is lovely. I'm shopping for a bolster and a cushion like this.
Yeah. So this one is not as thick as that one, but I actually like the shape of it better. And then to get into Courtney's, you have to, let's put a blanket.
You on the floor?
Yeah, let's,
On the floor.
wait,
wait.
Jane, let's put a blanket down.
Her knees.
Okay.
Because this floor is hard.
Yeah.
There we go. How you like that one?
Well, I mean, it hurts my feet.
Oh, yeah,
to
it
do
should have a
that.
blanket under it.
Yeah.
But can you also see how high your knees are? Yeah.
Oh, that's nice too.
Yeah, this is nice.
I tried it with the blocks because I see Jan does it a lot.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like the top one's going to shoot right out from under my butt. It's my curious composition. I like this a lot. Is that what it's called, like a meditation stool?
Meditation bench.
Mm-hmm. Meditation bench.
Very
My meditation teacher made it for me. Years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, that is nice. I like this too.
Yeah, I think your knees are lower on this one than they were on that one. Yeah. Okay, so you can also do this in a chair. If you're just in a regular chair, and you can play with this as well, there's a sense of flatness, okay? And if you'll notice every one of these, and the goal is that you're seated enough to let your knees come down lower than your hips. And that's not always easy for everybody. So when that's the case, you can play with just being in the chair. But again, this is sort of I get uncomfortable in this position for very long. So you can actually alter the chair. You just lift the back up and put it on something so that it tilts it in that direction. And even though I'm still not, here, I'm not crossed, but I can feel that there's a difference in the way my spine is feeling and also the knees here. So you're welcome to play with that as well if you want. Because what I want you to do is to think about what position could you get in that you can sit for 10 minutes so that we can experiment with some things.
These are okay for me,
This feels better.
but long periods of time,
Yeah.
I don't like to sit cross-legged. My
Yeah.
legs fall asleep.
The thing I like about this position is that if I'm sitting, and in my advanced teacher training, when we did sit first thing in the morning for 15 minutes, this would be my go-to, because then as my muscles of my back began to get tired, then I could take one foot forward and just do a little bit of a relief. And there's nothing that says you have to be on the floor. Buddhist tradition, you can be seated, kneeling, this would be kneeling, that would be seated, kneeling, standing, or walking are all positions of meditation. And you can even be lying down. The thing about being lying down is you don't want to go to sleep. Yeah? So another option is, if you wanted to be lying down, you can actually be on your side. You might need more support, but you could, this is a legitimate meditation pose.
Like you're on the beach.
Mm-hmm. You're on the beach. Yep. How's that feel?
I might be able to do this for 10 minutes a lot easier than I could do.
Yeah,
cross-
than one of the others. But the chair is still an option, okay?
This kills my quads. I just,
Yeah.
because my legs are so short. I like that. I could do that with my legs crossed for 10 minutes.
Okay. All right, so let's come back to the chair because I don't want to stress you out while we talk about some other things because then we are going to do 10 minutes. So come back to the, you are perfectly fine to hang out right there. Yes, if you know yourself and you know that you can be there for a bit. Okay, so we want the spine to be tall and almost a sense of your body hanging from the top of your head. Does that make sense? Your tongue generally to the roof of your mouth, where it just kind of rests at the top. And your jaw loose. Okay, so those are the big things. The things that will make you exhausted very quickly are arching. Okay, you can't sit like this for very long. Can you see what's happening in my spine? And slouching. And reaching, chin, head forward. It's like, okay, this is going to exhaust you.
I have to be careful of that one.
Yeah. Yeah. If your legs fall asleep, then you adjust. You move something. There's nothing that says you cannot move. Yes, we're looking for stillness, but we want to be able to be comfortable, relaxed. And if something starts to go to sleep, then you lose that because your mind goes right to it and it fights with it. And sleepiness. So the answers to sleepiness are lengthen your spine, open your eyes, stand up, or take a nap. It might very well be your body knows what you need, and it might be rest, it might be a nap. So there's nothing wrong with it, especially if you're doing yoga nidra where you are lying down. It's very common to fall asleep if you're tired. And there are a lot of, if you do yoga nidra for sleep, that's the goal, is it's actually to get you to sleep. And I sometimes do it twice a night if I'm having a hard time, Okay, so let's talk about, we're doing good time-wise tonight. All right, so let's talk about some tools that we can use that will corral this mind, right? Things that we can do, techniques that we can use that give ourselves some focus, some concentration. Okay, remember that word in the limbs of yoga is one, the first pratyahara is withdrawing, and then the next one is concentration, dharana.